Welcome to the Shirl and Shirley Show, and thanks for joining us today. Today I have Chris Inda as a guest. He's running for a school board locally here in Rapids. Say welcome, Chris, and why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself, and we'll get started.
Yeah, thanks, Shirley, for having me on again. Appreciate the invite. Yeah, so running for school board, Wisconsin Rapids, local business person here in the area. I have my wife and two wonderful children who are both in the school district. I've been in the area here for about 12 years, I think. Decided to start running for, get involved running for school board. Really, COVID was, I guess, the impetus for a lot of it. After I started looking into, more what's, I guess, going on, wanting to be involved for my kids' sake. There's just a lot of room for improvement, and I want to be part of that solution and, be a voice of reason, if you will, our students, our community.
Well, that's great, and that's the best reason to do it. I mean, you have two kids that are in the district that you want to pay attention to. I think it's a wonderful thing. I obviously served on school board. I understand what that passion is, and I also understand what goes into it. And I understand that it's the world has changed since I was on school board. I could see how COVID would bring people into it, and that's been a while. I appreciate the fact that you stood up to run because it's never easy. That's a definite certain. We all know that it's not easy. And the election is April 2nd this year. So April 2nd. And if you want to get your absentee ballot, because you're going to be out of town, because we know a lot of people that do that, make sure you go to myvote.wi.gov and you can apply for your absentee ballot application, and they can get you the absentee ballot mailed right to you, and you can vote, and make sure that you do that. I don't know when early voting starts. It will tell you on myvote.wi.gov. It is early for that.
You can also use that site to check your polling places and see what's on the ballot and who you want to vote for as well.
There you go. Well, we're asking you today to vote for Chris Inda and only Chris Inda. The other thing about voting for school board, a lot of times they'll say, you can check 3 boxes. You can check 3 people. And I think right now, is there 5 people running? There's 3 positions open. So they'll say, you can vote for 3. My advice to anyone out there listening, please vote for 1 and choose Chris Inda. That's the way that you do it. And I know I've had to explain this many times to people, but if you have 10 people voting, just 10 people voting, and if Chris Inda asks for every one of those votes, he's going to get those 10 people. If he doesn't ask for that, if they split it 3 ways, then somebody can get 3, 3, 3, and that last one would be the one that gets over the top. You need to make sure that you vote one person, the person you want on the school board. Check 1 box, Chris Inda. And we would appreciate that greatly. All right. Well, Chris and I are going to get started here. One thing I will say about Chris is that I know that he goes to the school board meetings, and he's been doing that for years. And that right there in itself is sufferable. No offense, but
it can be an experience. Yeah.
it can be. And sometimes the school board meetings can be very boring. The problem with that is that most of the information is given during the committee meetings, which is done before the school board meetings.
Right.
You get to a school board meeting and they already pretty much know what's going to happen at that school board meeting. You can look at the agenda and you can tell that what they're going to vote on and all. One thing that I've noticed here is that they're kind of in lockstep. I have seen, and Chris has pointed this out, that there has been a couple recent votes that someone has voted no on, but everyone else has gone along with it. And we're going to talk about a couple of those. So why don't we start with one of those, Chris, that I know you were concerned about, playgrounds, and I found this very fascinating. So listen up, people, because this is taxpayer dollar money, and some of it they say is free, but never free. So go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. At the most recent school board meeting that was held on February 12th, there was a action or discussion and possible action to approve an amendment to a Legacy Foundation Central Wisconsin grant agreement. The school district was looking to update and upgrade all of the playground equipment at all the sites, at all the schools that have not already been done so in the last few years, put in all new equipment. And at the school board meeting, it was announced that there was an error done in the original proposal for the equipment to be installed. And so the school district had to go back to the Legacy Foundation, which had originally approved a grant, $750,000, expectation that the school district would put in over $556,000 toward the project. Going back now to the Legacy Foundation, after realizing they made an error in the budget in the proposal, the Legacy Foundation will contribute an additional $750,000 towards the project, again, under the expectation that the school district will also commit an additional over $556,000 towards the project. So, we're over $3 million now in this project all in. Plus, I think the city of Rapids is helping some of the funding as well. But so I'm looking at this, Cheryl, and thinking that a budget would have been done first of all years ago, based on the age of the equipment and when life expectancy would be. So I'm thinking, is that budget? What happened to that? Why are we updating maybe sooner than was originally proposed? There was obviously, you mentioned right during the meeting, an error in the current budget for the new updates, that they had to go back and ask for additional funds. Really, what I guess the last point that gets me on this is, I get that there's older equipment, some of it's not ADA compliant, but I think there's other methods and means to maybe achieve some of this if all the equipment is failing or is beyond its useful life. I know there's plenty of opportunities out there. I've seen other communities be able to purchase slightly used equipment at a much lower cost, that would still get you compliant, that would update some older equipment. If how much of the equipment in the playground equipment is truly outdated and needs to be updated, or are we doing this because we have this money? What could we be using it better towards, first of all?
Well, what gets me is real quick, Fund 46 is basically for long-term capital improvement.
Right.
And you have to have a plan that's been in effect for like a minimum of 10 years, something like that. Why in the world wouldn't they have had these have this improvement plan down through
Right.
like buildings and grounds, and have what is their 5-year plan? What is their 10-year plan? And maybe we need to look into that a little bit and find out. But
Well,
this is one of those things that is very frustrating, and that's a
yeah.
lot of money.
And so what's interesting too on that Fund 46, the money that's been put in there has been funded through any surplus that the school district has had in their budget. I'd like to know as well, okay, so if we have a surplus, where did that money come from? Where was it originally supposed to be? Where was it intended to go? Why did it not go there? We have literacy issues, just academic issues across the board. And could we be funding that money or funding those programs more, instead of putting this money in this Fund 46 account and now using it on playground equipment?
Well, an interesting thing is that it's supposed to be used for like capital maintenance projects, so large ones. It'll help pay
Yeah.
for it. So let's say, for instance, now we use all this money because they have it. All of a sudden, you need a roof replacement in one of the schools, or a
Right.
boiler replacement, or whatever.
Exactly.
And then
Natural maintenance. Yeah.
right, exactly, which is what they should have a plan for. All of this. Where does Legacy Foundation get their money?
So Legacy Foundation, I have to do a little more research on it, to be honest, Cheryl. But
It's okay. So now I just Googled it because, of course, I'm just nosy. Foundation of Central Wisconsin is a private foundation that funds Boys and Girls Clubs of Wisconsin Rapids. It made 15 grants last year. There's a lot of money there. I don't know exactly somebody knows how to write grants. Financial for Legacy Foundation. People need to check into these things and find out.
absolutely.
So it's very interesting. And I hadn't known anything about it until you mentioned to me. And I looked on the school board agenda. So I didn't even know anything about this. So this is something I will be looking into just to find out what the heck. That's over $1.5 million they're going to be giving, right?
Yeah, just from the school district. Yeah. So that's our taxpayer money.
You just wonder where this is coming from. And then, like I said, what happens if they do need some kind of something really serious done? You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, well, that's good to know. And I think people should be contacting their school board members. I always say that. Contact your school board member and ask them about it, because everyone voted yes except for one person on the
Correct,
board.
yes.
So it did pass. So they are accepting the money, and they
Correct.
are going to redo these playgrounds. And I know that one school recently had a new playground done.
Grove and Woodside Woodside is the more recent one, and Grove did a few years back. Yeah.
Interesting.
You
So,
know
yeah.
what's interesting is, I mentioned I've got a couple kids, 8-year-old and a 6-year-old. Take them around. We go to different playgrounds. We've been to the new ones at Woodside, over at Grove, and we've been out to ones, at Grant and, wherever else. And neither of my kids complain at any of them, whether they're older or newer equipment.
Mhm.
They have the same, fun time, enjoyment. To them, it's not an issue of it being older or something that should be new. So
Right.
I don't know. As far as, kid standpoint goes, I don't think there's a demand for it there either.
No, and I'm sure there's not parents contacting the school saying, "Oh my gosh, these playgrounds are terrible. we need to redo them. I'm sure that we have money. I mean, I haven't looked it up lately, but I know for a fact there was still a lot of COVID money in this district. And if they don't use it by January or September of 2024, it's going to be gone. Who knows? And maybe they put some of that money into that 46, Fund 46. I haven't done a lot of research on that.
Absolutely.
As parents and citizens, tax-paying citizens, I think I've said this story before. Unfortunately, this is the third place I've lived in Wisconsin. Smaller property, land, smaller home than any place I've lived, and I pay far more taxes here. Most of it goes to the school. That's what got me involved here, was paying attention to that and seeing what my tax rate was. And then when I moved here, it was during the time that they passed a referendum for like $49 million and kids weren't even in school. It blew
Right.
my mind. And then I find out that some of it was for like turf on a football field. And what? What is going on? And then when you look at the scores, the test scores, and I'm not saying anything, there's not a thing against teachers. I'm not against any teacher. I never have been. I've always supported teachers. I have teachers in my family.
No, but if the teachers need more support, they need,
Yes.
more staff or more programs, or, if our focus is on the academics and the curriculum and making sure our children are set up to succeed, we're only going to benefit, everybody there. I want it
Absolutely.
to be a place where a destination,
Yeah.
school that parents will bring their kids because we have such a high quality academic program here.
Right.
And if it means that maybe the playground equipment doesn't get updated as soon, we've got outstanding performance in schools. I think I can live with that.
Yeah, I think I can too, as a parent and as a community involved person who wants to see that happen. I would like to see that happen. And that brings us to maybe the next subject we could bring up that we just found out. The superintendent here on the 27th of February resigned. He put in his resignation. He will be leaving the district. He's been here since 2017. And honestly, if you look at the records from 2017 to now, he should be resigning. And that's my personal opinion. Chris has nothing to do with saying that. That is Cheryl saying it. Good riddance, Mr. Brorin. And thank you for your service. And we're okay. Chris and I were talking a little bit before we started talking on here, and I'm going to let him address this. One of the concerns now is there's a lot of schools, a lot of districts looking for superintendents right now. And there's a reason for that. I really don't know. I mean, it's very confusing because I think our educational system is just in a mess right now. And I've heard that from more than one person. I've heard it from hundreds of people.
Right.
And I hear it on other radio. I hear it on radio shows. We just talked about that. We talked about some of that on radio shows. We hear it from parents. We hear it. I mean, I hear it from parents. We have a Facebook page too, a group, and we get parents contacting us all the time about issues that are going on in the district. And it's kind of scary, but nobody wants to speak out because they're very frightened and afraid. And now maybe by moving this superintendent along, we'll find somebody that the staff and everyone will have confidence in being able to speak out. And I think that's really a good thing.
Yeah, and I think part of this might be a trickle down effect. Yeah, obviously, current superintendent's leaving and taking another position further up north. So when that superintendent up there is resigning, obviously that sets in motion. Then ours has, our current superintendent took that job, which means that there's going to be somebody else somewhere that's going to take our job. So I think part of it is just the natural movement. Obviously, there's more than one reason for all this change, all this movement going on. We always look at too just a bigger picture. The pendulum always swings one way or the other, and that's always part of it too. So there's just going to be a natural change occurring. People want something different. They want to go move on, and then there are obviously other reasons too. If there's issues at play. So I don't know that there's one main reason that all these positions are opening up. I do think it's just part of the natural course that you're going to have so many X amount of openings every year, though, or every few years on these. But yeah, it's kind of an exciting time to be able to step in, get elected in, and be a part of that process to help select the next superintendent. We want to be able to find somebody that's going to do the best for our children, right? And the best for our teachers, our staff, everybody here.
That's exactly what you would wish for and hope for is that. But you did say something about, we know that Wausau has opening. I think Mosinee, places around us too are going to be looking. So what kind of
We have some competition.
Yeah, and candidates are you going to get based on that? And if they are bouncing around, there's a reason for that. I mean, honestly, the superintendent we had here was the 5th highest paid superintendent in the state. So
Right.
now what are we going to do? Are we going to have the 4th highest paid now? It's like,
Yeah. I don't know if that's how the market dictates the superintendent's pay or not. I think it needs to be just based off of qualifications, but based off each candidate. I guess what the needs for the district are and what we can get.
Right. And I did see that the school board is going to the community involvement for some community involvement. So I encourage people to hopefully step up for that. that too. I'm going to try because it doesn't hurt to try. I know that I might have had some conflict with the superintendent that had been here or that is still here until the end of this year. Well, no, until the end of the school year.
Of
I think
June.
he's yeah, I think he starts his new job at July 1st. I wish him well, I really do. I have to say that I am very glad that he is moving along, and maybe that's what we needed, and maybe that will change the atmosphere, and it can really make a big difference. I know that sounds crazy, but if people that have worked at other companies that have had things like that happen will agree with that.
Well,
Sometimes
leadership at the top.
yeah, exactly, and we've talked about that many different times. So I just wanted to address that he will be leaving. Times that's a good thing. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully we can get someone really well here that's suited for this area. That's kind of what we need. We need somebody that's going to fit into Wisconsin Rapids School District. The student declinement has happened. Enrollment has just gone down, declining over the years. Maybe we need to work on focusing on what's right in our school district, that we get someone in here that fits that profile that will help increase. And like you said, increasing the educational system, and it will, yeah, make a
And
difference.
you mentioned something briefly, very quickly there, Cheryl, that enrollment's going down. I know there's a narrative out there. People like to think that people aren't moving to the area. And if I can just address that quickly, I mentioned earlier that as a local business person here, I'm actually a local realtor, and so I've been doing that for the last 7 years. And I can tell you certainly that being the case here that people are leaving the area. In fact, year over year, we keep selling more homes than the previous year. We're certainly gaining more individuals in our area. Some of that's due to being able to work remotely now and change, type of job experiences. So people are traveling to different areas. And so we have certainly seen a lot more homes sold than we've seen in the past, several years. So I think people are moving to the area, but they're being smarter about maybe more informed and different decisions about where they want to send their children for education.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a very interesting time for sure. You have a lot of different choices now as a parent too. And many parents have chosen to virtual school online or something else, or going to a Christian or some other type of school, which
Charter
is
schools here, we have got some
yes.
options here. Yep.
There's a lot of different choices, and we have seen that happen lately over the last, well, I know for a fact over the last almost 4 years, 3 or 4 years, we've witnessed it a lot. Gone down in student enrollment from like 5,114 students down to 4,600. That's quite a drop in 4 years. I just hope that we can do something that's going to change the atmosphere and make it a little bit better, and maybe calm it down a little bit without feeling that uncomfortableness. And you should
Yeah.
be able to dig into it and ask questions and have discussion. I think that's really important.
Yep.
And I haven't witnessed much of that over the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to kind of point back, to be the voice of reason, to be somebody, common sense type of deal. Let's talk about a matter. Let's talk about all sides of an issue. We have and as you mentioned, I've been going to the school board meetings for 2-3 years now, for sure. And a lot of the times, a lot of these new business or actionable items that come up at school board meetings are unanimously approved with little to no discussion.
Correct.
There's just very little input on any side of a matter. So we just need to be a little more open-minded. We need to be talking about issues, I think, more in depth and what effect that might have on the students, on the teachers, on the taxpayers.
I think some of that is the taxpayers. A lot of times people are so busy trying to live their life. And right now, with the inflation and things that have gone up in prices, people are just concerned about everything, and they don't really have the time to pay attention to what's going on in the school district. They just know that if their taxes go up, well, what happened? Well, you have to pay attention, and you have to, reach out, you have to learn. Sometimes I think they're just busy trying to get their kids off to school, get their job done and function as a family. And that's hard in itself,
Totally.
especially with stresses going on, and then you have the stresses of what's going on in a school, and that adds to it. So it just adds a lot. One of the things I wanted to hit on too was you and I kind of read this a little bit at the bottom of the agenda, where it has a WRPS pupil non-discrimination statement. I found that kind of interesting. And this is, people should be looking at, they should be reviewing the board policies and look and see, because the one sentence here kind of got me a little bit. The school district of Wisconsin Rapids is committed to equal education opportunity for all district students. I don't think any of us would disagree with that. The district will not deny any person admission to, participation in, or the benefits of any curricular, extracurricular, pupil services, recreational, or other program or activity because of a person's gender, race, national origin, ancestry, creed, religion, pregnancy, marital or parental status, sexual orientation, discrimination, gender, transgender status, gender identity, or physical, mental, emotional, or learning disability, or any other characteristic protected under state or federal civil rights laws. Please review Board Policy 411 for additional information. Incidents of discrimination or harassment should be reported to a teacher, administrator, supervisor, or other district employee to be addressed or forwarded on to district compliance officer. People, parents, please look up Board Policy 411. You can go to the district website and check that out. And you need to look at Board Policy 411.11. These are very important. Things are being pushed in the school districts that parents don't even have a clue about. They never said these things when I was in school.
Right. Yeah,
I'm-
and certainly not going to pretend I'm an expert in person's gender identity or the transgender issue. What's going on today. All I can say is, as a candidate, and I'm out there talking with concerned parents. One of the biggest complaints I get is parents not wanting to see maybe their daughter have to go up against a man in a sporting event, or somebody that has an unfair advantage. And I've seen plenty of videos, I'm sure you have too, Cheryl, where these girls are getting injured at these
Mhm.
events because these men are playing these sports, and they just have such a huge advantage over them. And
Mhm.
so just being that voice for those parents that want to go back to that Title IX and women's sports, protecting those women's sports.
Mhm.
What I'm hearing from these parents, they want to protect their children.
Yep, and I agree totally with that. Like I said, I think I talked to you before we started and said that I was around when Title IX started. It was very big, and it really made a big difference in women's sports, and we were thrilled to death, where you had uniforms that were paid for by the district. You didn't have to go out and buy it yourself. You had other opportunities, and it did help. And then it started where you had, women being able to go to college on scholarships, things like that. And now that's being taken away by men that say they're women, and I'm sorry. It's very sad. It's something that most of us can't understand, especially maybe in my generation. I don't have anything against anybody. I really don't. And I do feel very, very, very badly for people that have that. Gender dysphoria is very, very small, minute part of what is going on in the world. All this social media and all these things, and kids kind of go in fads. I mean, the fad when I was in school was go-go boots and miniskirts.
Yeah.
Thank goodness that's what it was.
Yeah, and I don't want to put out there that
No.
people, transgender or gender identity aspects, if someone wants to be
Yeah.
whoever they want to be, I'm not here to debate that or even talk about that right now. What I want to see, though, is that we're protecting our women's sports like we should be. And right now, there's just enough instances where that's not the case.
Correct. And I agree with you when social media has a lot to do with some of this stuff. I do think it is something that we need to talk about because it is a lot of talk out there. When I run into people, they do mention it. And it's one of those things where, yeah, well, I want somebody on the board that's going to make sure our kids are protected. And that's every kid, every kid. So,
Absolutely. And
and
that
that's,
goes back
yeah.
to your original statement of people are busy, they have their daily lives. It's hard to get kids off to school. Trust me, I live it every day. But certainly part of it is being informed and your responsibility. But when we're so busy, if you're a single parent, obviously your time's limited. Two-parent system and you're both working, that's still your time's limited. And so that's the importance of certainly getting someone on the school board that you can trust and that's going to advocate for you.
Absolutely. Well, I think some of the things that's happened over the years is used to you could elect someone and you could trust them to do what they are supposed to do. But now it seems like it's changed somewhat. And agendas, people's own personal agendas, or people get on there for the wrong reasons and they lead it one way or the other. And running for school board is a nonpartisan position.
Yep.
You should not be a partisan person on a school board. It shouldn't be led like that.
Well, I think that's a great segue, Cheryl, to my next topic I wanted to bring up is, what's your motivation, or what are you doing on the school board, or doing what you say you're going to do? So at that same school board meeting on February 12th I was at, there was another item that came up for possible approval, which just did get approved as well. But there was an agreement proposed by Vista Sands Solar LLC to provide a non-binding pledge to provide an annual gift to the district for a 20-year period. Let me break this down a little first. So the Vista Sands Solar is putting in a solar field project, one of the largest in certainly the area, if not the state. I know it's going to be a massive facility. So they're going to put that out. It's in the town of Grant, all private land. They're looking at. So I guess that's fine. The property owners want to do that. That's up to them. I think people first need to understand all these solar projects that are going in are getting subsidies from the federal government for these installations and for these projects. That's the starting point of it. Where's the money coming from? Well, they are getting funds from the federal government for this. So Vista Sands Solar they're certainly not a local company. They're not necessarily invested in the community as far as I can see. And I guess what concerns me is, they want to provide the school district whatever funds are going to be available. Again, it's non-binding. It's going to be based on energy production and how much they're making. At that school board meeting, aside from one of the members, again, no discussion on the topic. I felt there should have been a representative from the company, from Vista Sands, at the meeting to be able to question, to ask more about the project, ask more about this agreement, be able to just ask, why. And I mean, that's great. Somebody wants to be able to fund the school and provide money. That could be very honorable, but we can't assume that. We certainly need to talk to somebody there. What's the motivation there?
I don't like the fact that they didn't have somebody there as a representative
Right.
answering questions, and there should have been discussion for sure. And how
Absolutely.
much money and what's okay? So they're saying non-binding pledge right now to provide an annual gift. When is that going to start? It doesn't even say that.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't
So
say, it doesn't have anything tied to it. That's not very clear. And yeah, that would have been something I would have been questioning too. So I'm glad you're bringing that up.
it really puts the school district in a precarious position because they're going to be getting this money. Now, the Vista Sands, according to my knowledge of the agreement, there is at least the ability for Vista Sands to be able to review where the money's going. We all know how the world works, Cheryl. How long before, again, we connect the dots. Money's come federal government to Vista Sands to the school district. How long before people change positions? We talked about that. People move on, and somebody's going to come along and say, well, no, I want this money being used for X,
Right.
or you're not going to get this money until you vote for this. So going back to your original point of people getting on the school board and not doing what they say, this right here is a concern for me of that we have our integrity of our school board in place so that they're making the decisions not based on where the money's coming in.
Correct.
And, what frustrates me, not only for that, again, there was very little discussion at the school board meeting about this. Again, that the same one member voted no and did, have some pushback on it, but everybody else, voted yes and had nothing to say about it. So I just felt there should, I was jaw dropped.
Yeah, I'm sure.
How could you not have any more conversation on this? I was just flabbergasted.
Well, sometimes those things slip by and people don't realize that there can be things tied to it and eventually this is something I'm going to say, and I don't like saying it, but what I have witnessed here is the fact that there's a lot of rubber stamping that goes on. I don't understand that, and I don't understand the fact that there's not discussion. I mean, there's just like a motion, a second, and it passes. It's like, this is entailing money. We should be discussing this. What is the tie? And you can say non-binding, that's right here, but is there a policy now that's going to say that? Is there, that you can use this any way you want for the next 20 years? I doubt that very much. There will be something tied to it. And it could be the next thing, increase green energy teaching in some classes from kindergarten to third.
And I want to just be on record too, Cheryl, and say I by no means am advocating and saying Vista Sands Solar is doing anything nefarious or
No.
under the table or trying to do anything that might jeopardize our school board or our integrity. We want to have that discussion. We want to make sure 100% that we're doing this for the right reasons and be able to have that conversation with Vista Sands.
As a school board member, it is your job to do that.
Absolutely.
That's why I elect you. So I know for a fact you're going to watch out for my kids, grandkids, whoever's in the school, any child. Plus, you're going to watch out for what is coming around the corner. It's your job.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we want to be able to have that discussion with them. We want to look out for the best interest of our district, of our kids, and we can't do that if we simply just agree to everything that comes in front of us.
Well, I do think that I agree with that 100%. I appreciate you bringing it up because it is something we should hit on. And then how about if we segue over to where people can get hold of you, what events are coming up? And I know there's probably some this year, and then we'll reiterate April 2nd. And then how people can get hold of you is really important, Chris. So you can get signs. I know you said you had to order some more signs, which is a good problem to to have.
Yeah, let me start with where you can get a hold of me. Best way really to get a hold of me, you contact me through Facebook. You can go to it's just Chris Inda for School Board, and that's INDA, Chris Inda for School Board. Certainly just message me on there. Phone on me all the time, so I will certainly respond to you. And that's the best way if you want to get a yard sign. I should be getting, again. I had to reorder some. I ran out, so good problem to have, right? But
Absolutely.
I should be getting those here in about a week. And so if you'd like to get some of those, certainly just reach out to me and I'd be happy to get those to you. When we do have some, events coming up. So actually on March 21st, there will be a meet and greet 21st at the McMillan Library in Wisconsin Rapids. And I will be there from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. So yeah, happy to answer any of your questions, meet you, talk about, what's going on in the school board. Certainly going to be out and about just doing a lot of door knocking. So you might see me, come to your door as well. So, getting my information out there. I will also be attending the fundraiser coming up at the Ridges Golf Course this Saturday that I'm going to make an appearance at, be able to hand out some materials if you're going to be there as well.
All right. That's a fundraiser at Ridges. What time
Yeah.
is that?
Oh, 10:30 it'll start, and I think it runs till the afternoon at some point. There's a open networking, if you will, from 10:30 to like noon.
So then the League of Women Voters is on March 21st, and it's at 7 to 8 for school board members, I think,
Yes.
at the library, McMillan Library, which is good. And then voting is April 2nd, Tuesday. Don't forget that. And if you need your absentee ballot or anything, because you're not going to be around, make sure you get it at myvote.wi.gov.gov. Questions, you can contact me or you can contact Chris. I hope that you do. And I certainly hope that you will cast your ballot for Chris Inda for school board. Chris needs to be on there. I do think he has good plan and good ideas on and thought process, critical thinking, which is very important. So thank you very much for coming on today, Chris. Yep, I appreciate it very much. And thank you so much for listening to the Shirley and Shirley Show. You can find us on all kinds of platforms, Podbean, as well as Spotify and all of them, pretty much Apple. There's tons of them out there. You can look us up. And then also it goes to my LinkedIn and goes on the Facebook page. So
Sure. I could just close with a couple of final thoughts here.
absolutely, please do.
You had mentioned earlier, and I talked about my kids a couple times here. Right now, the current school board, all the members do not have none of them have kids in school. I would be the only person on the board actually having children in the school district. So just having that perspective, that experience, that knowledge of what our kids are currently going through, be able to advocate for all those parents as well, understanding, just our daily struggles and what's going on. The last point I want to make is simply, this is actually my third year running. And I'm not ashamed to say that. In the 3 years I've run now, I've seen several people run for these positions for 1 year, maybe 2 years, and then they've walked away for various reasons. I'm certainly committed to this. I'm continuing it. I'm running again. I want to make a difference. I know there's change that can be done, and I know we can make some positive impacts here. And I'm not quitting, on our kids. I'm committed. I'm in this again, and I'm going to continue to be in this so that we can make that change that we want to see.
I can say wholeheartedly that I have known Chris for quite a while now. He is in it for the long run. He's done a good job. He still goes to the school board meetings. So he keeps me informed, and I appreciate that greatly. I do believe that when you cast your vote for Chris and you are going to be casting a vote for someone who is very committed, and will ask the questions and we'll start discussion. And I do think by changing superintendents at this time, it's probably going to be a really good thing, a good experience for someone like Chris to be on the school board. Please make sure that you go out and vote on April 2nd or before. Early voting starts, and I don't know the date, but you can check it out. Thank you so much, Chris, for pointing that out, because I forgot about that. And you being the only parent, which I think is fantastic. You have people on the school board who retired from the school district, and you have people that have been on there 20 years or more. There's only a couple people who haven't been on there that long, and that blows my mind, and they're still running. Why? Why would you want to do that? Give some new people some chances, and that's part of our problem in the political process anyway. Like I said, it's a nonpartisan position. Support somebody who lives in the community, who is very active, and who is looking to get on the school board for the right reasons, and that's what's important. Thank you again, Chris, and I will get a chance to talk to you real soon, okay? You take care, and thank you for listening to the Shirley and Shirley Show, and thank you for joining us today.